The soft hum of the Alpha Centauri diplomatic shuttle surrounded Dr. Maya Johnson as she settled into her plush first-class seat. The cabin gleamed with polished surfaces that reflected the stars streaking past the large viewing windows. Maya straightened her formal Navy suit and reviewed her notes one final time. After years of struggle, she had finally reached this moment, representing humanity at the Galactic Council's annual Peace Summit. Water, Dr. Johnson. A service droid hovered beside her, offering a crystal glass. Thank you, Maya said, accepting the drink with a small smile. Her hand touched the golden pin on her lapel, Earth's emblem, a reminder of everyone counting on her success. Around her sat various alien diplomats, their strange forms occupying specially designed seats. Maya was the only human in the first-class cabin, a fact that hadn't escaped her notice. She felt their occasional glances, but kept her focus on her work. The upcoming negotiations would determine humanity's standing among the stars for decades to come. The Salaxian ambassador entered the cabin, his 7-foot frame ducking slightly under the doorway. His iridescent scales shifted colors as he moved, a biological display of status among his kind. He paused when he spotted Maya, his slitted eyes narrowing. "There appears to be a mistake," he announced loudly, his translator making his voice sound metallic. "A human is seated in the diplomatic quarter." Maya looked up, keeping her expression neutral despite the sudden tension in the cabin. "Ambassador Orcs, I believe we're scheduled to meet at the summit. I'm Dr. Maya Johnson, Earth's chief negotiator." The Salaxian scales flashed a deep red. "I am aware of who you are, Dr. Johnson. What I question is your placement in this cabin." Before Maya could respond, the ambassador moved to the communication panel and pressed his scaled finger against it. "Captain, there is a situation in the diplomatic quarter that requires your attention." Maya felt heat rising to her cheeks, but kept her breathing steady. She had faced discrimination before, during law school, in courtrooms back on Earth, and now among the stars. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "Your dignity is not given to you by others. It's yours to maintain." Within minutes, 2 security officers entered the cabin. One was human, his eyes downcast as he approached Maya's seat. The other was Centaurian, with 4 arms and blue-tinted skin. "Dr. Johnson," the human officer said quietly, "there seems to be a seating arrangement issue." Maya looked directly at him. "My credentials and boarding pass clearly assign me to seat 4A in the diplomatic quarter. I verified this with Earth Central before departure." The Centaurian officer checked his tablet. "Your credentials appear valid, but we've received a formal complaint." "From whom?" Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. "Several ambassadors have expressed concerns about human presence in the diplomatic quarter during this journey," the officer replied, avoiding specifics. Maya glanced around the cabin. Most diplomats were pretending not to listen, but she caught their occasional glances, some curious, others satisfied. "This is a direct violation of the Interstellar Travel Accord of 2147, Maya stated firmly. Section 12 explicitly prohibits discrimination based on species in public transportation. The Salaxian ambassador approached, towering over the seated Maya. "The Accord has exceptions for diplomatic missions. As you should know, Dr. Johnson, this cabin is reserved for senior representatives." "I am Earth's senior representative," Maya countered, keeping her voice level. "Earth," the ambassador said slowly, scales shimmering with disdain, "is still proving its place among civilized worlds." The human officer looked uncomfortable. "Dr. Johnson, perhaps for this journey, it would be easier if I moved to economy." Maya finished his sentence. She considered her options quickly. Making the scene would potentially damage Earth's position before negotiations even began. Yet submitting to this treatment set a dangerous precedent. After a moment's thought, Maya gathered her tablet and small bag. "I will relocate under protest and will be filing a formal complaint with the Galactic Transit Authority." As she stood, memories flooded back, her grandmother marching for equal rights decades ago, Her struggles through law school as one of few women of color, the barriers she'd broken to become humanity's voice among the stars. The Salaxian's scales shifted to a smug yellow-green as he watched her prepare to leave. "Your kind belongs in the back," he said quietly, just loud enough for Maya to hear. Maya met his gaze steadily. "Today I may move to economy, Ambassador. But at the council table, we will sit as equals." With dignity intact, Maya walked the long aisle through the diplomatic quarter, feeling dozens of alien eyes following her. She held her head high, knowing this moment of humiliation would not define her mission, or humanity's future among the stars. Maya settled into her economy seat, knees pressed uncomfortably against the chair in front. The cabin around her buzzed with the chatter of human tourists, junior diplomats, and service workers. Unlike the spacious diplomatic quarters she just left, this section was cramped and utilitarian. "Can you believe the view?" asked the elderly woman beside her, pointing excitedly at the small window. "First time off-world." Maya smiled politely. "No, I travel for work regularly." "Oh, what do you do, dear?" Before Maya could answer, she felt a slight vibration through the floor. She frowned, recognizing the unusual pattern. After representing Earth in multiple spacecraft safety cases, she knew that particular shudder wasn't normal. The lights flickered once, then again. "Probably just turbulence in the gravity field," the woman said, noticing Maya's concern. Maya wasn't convinced. She activated her personal tablet, pulling up the shuttle's public status feed. Everything appeared normal, but her instincts told her otherwise. 3 minutes later, a violent jolt rocked the entire ship. Passengers gasped as the lights failed completely before emergency strips illuminated the cabin in an eerie red glow. "Attention all passengers," announced a calm mechanical voice. "We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please remain seated with safety harnesses secured." Maya's tablet pinged with an emergency alert, one meant for crew and officials. Her legal override codes still worked. The message froze her blood. "Critical failure in diplomatic quarter. Decompression event in progress." The diplomatic quarter, where she had been seated just 20 minutes earlier. The ship lurched again, more violently this time. Screams erupted from passengers as oxygen masks dropped from overhead compartments. "Please remain calm." The AI voice continued, though Maya detected a subtle shift in its tone. "Emergency protocols are being implemented." Maya's tablet displayed more information. The outer hull in the diplomatic section had suffered damage. Emergency barriers were failing to seal properly. The entire front section of the ship was in danger. Through her small window, Maya could see debris trailing from the ship, pieces of the hull glinting in the light of distant stars. "Something's really wrong, isn't it?" the elderly woman whispered, clutching Maya's arm with surprising strength. Maya nodded grimly. "The front of the ship is damaged." Her tablet continued receiving emergency updates as her legal credentials gave her access to information hidden from regular passengers. The system was reporting multiple failures in the safety protocols, all concentrated in the diplomatic quarter. This wasn't random. The pattern was too specific. A new message appeared on her screen. "Diplomatic quarter isolation unsuccessful. Oxygen levels critical. Estimated time to complete failure, 12 minutes. Maya thought of the diplomats trapped there, even the Salaxian ambassador who had humiliated her. If the emergency barriers failed completely, they would die. The ship's communication system crackled to life. A panicked voice, not the AI, spoke. "This is First Officer Talon. All crew to emergency stations. Repeat, all crew to emergency stations. Prepare for possible evacuation." Passengers began talking over each other, fear spreading through the cabin like wildfire. Maya accessed the ship's internal camera feeds. The diplomatic quarter was in chaos. Luxury furniture floated freely as gravity failed in sections. Several diplomats appeared to be injured. Emergency doors had sealed, trapping them inside the failing section. She spotted the Salaxian ambassador, his normally vibrant scales now dull with terror, as he tried to force open a sealed emergency exit. His efforts were useless. The doors were designed to stay closed during decompression events. Maya's mind raced. The ship's design, which she had studied extensively during a lawsuit last year, included multiple redundant systems. For all of them to fail simultaneously suggested deliberate sabotage. The elderly woman beside her was praying quietly, eyes closed tight. Maya made a decision. She unbuckled her safety harness. "What are you doing?" gasped her seatmate. "They said stay seated." "People are going to die if someone doesn't help," Maya replied, already moving toward the crew access panel at the front of the economy section. "But you're just a passenger." Maya paused, looking back with determination in her eyes. "I'm Dr. Maya Johnson, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, and I know this ship better than most of its crew." She reached the access panel and entered her legal override code. The door slid open, revealing the narrow service corridor beyond. As alarms continued to blare, Maya stepped through. The diplomats who had rejected her would soon learn that humanity's strength wasn't measured by status or appearance, but by what one did when lives hung in the balance. The service corridor stretched before Maya like a narrow tunnel, bathed in pulsing red emergency lights. Warning messages echoed through the speakers as she moved forward, guided by the ship schematics displayed on her tablet. "Warning: unauthorized personnel in service area," announced the ship's AI. Maya ignored it, pushing ahead. The air grew thinner as she approached the barrier separating economy from the failing diplomatic quarter. A sign flashed, "Danger. Decompression risk," across the sealed doorway ahead. Maya placed her hand on the scanner beside the door. "Override Johnson Earth Alpha 27, she commanded. The computer processed her credentials. "Override denied. Diplomatic quarters sealed for passenger safety." Maya frowned. She needed a different approach. Glancing at her tablet, she noticed a maintenance hatch 3 meters to her right. The ship's emergency systems were programmed to seal the main corridors, but secondary access routes sometimes remained operational. She knelt beside the small hatch and pried open the panel, revealing a manual release lever. With a grunt of effort, she pulled it down. The hatch popped open, revealing a cramped maintenance tunnel. Without hesitation, Maya climbed inside. The space was barely wide enough for her shoulders as she crawled forward. Her knees scraped against metal grating while warning sirens continued to wail throughout the ship. 6 minutes until catastrophic failure, her tablet announced, displaying the latest system alert. Maya quickened her pace. The tunnel sloped upward, leading toward the diplomatic quarter. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she pushed herself forward. A loud bang echoed through the ship, followed by a violent shudder. Maya braced herself against the tunnel walls as the entire vessel seemed to tilt. After what felt like an eternity, she reached another hatch. Through its small window, she could see the diplomatic quarter, now a scene of chaos. Luxury furniture floated freely in the partially gravity-disabled cabin. Several diplomats clung to fixed objects. Emergency barriers had sealed all standard exits, trapping them inside the failing section. Maya turned the manual release wheel on the hatch. It resisted at first, then slowly began to move. With a final push, the hatch swung open. A rush of escaping air pulled at her as she climbed through. The pressure difference made her ears pop painfully. The diplomatic quarter was losing atmosphere rapidly. "Everyone," Maya shouted, her voice sounding strange in the thinning air. "This way." Several alien faces turned toward her in surprise. Among them, the Xalaxian ambassador stared in disbelief, his scales now a pale blue of fear instead of their usual vibrant colors. "The human," he gasped. "Follow me if you want to live," Maya responded, fighting to keep her balance in the fluctuating gravity. "This section is failing. We have less than 5 minutes." A ceiling panel crashed down nearby, narrowly missing a Proximan diplomat. The danger seemed to convince them. Even the Xalaxian ambassador moved toward her. "The maintenance tunnel can get us to safety," Maya explained, pointing to the open hatch. one at a time. Quickly. She helped the injured move first, a Centaurian with a gashed arm, an elderly Martian diplomat struggling to breathe in the thinning atmosphere. One by one, they squeezed through the hatch. The Galaxian ambassador approached, his tall frame making him tower over Maya. "Why did you come back?" he asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Another explosion rocked the ship before she could answer. A large support beam broke loose from the ceiling, hurtling toward them. Maya reacted instinctively, shoving the ambassador toward the hatch. The beam crashed down, pinning Maya's leg to the floor. Pain shot through her body as she suppressed a scream. The Galaxian looked back, seeing her trapped. For a moment, he hesitated. Then, to Maya's surprise, he moved back toward her. "Leave me," Maya gasped through clenched teeth. "Get yourself to safety." The ambassador's scales shifted to a determined purple. "I will not." With surprising strength, he lifted the beam just enough for Maya to pull her injured leg free. 2 minutes until catastrophic failure, her tablet warned. Working together, they helped the last diplomats through the hatch. Maya's injured leg slowed her down, but the Galaxians supported her weight as they moved. They were the last to enter the maintenance tunnel. As the hatch sealed behind them, they heard the terrible sound of the diplomatic quarters' outer hull finally giving way to the vacuum of space. Crawling painfully through the tunnel, Maya led the group toward safety, her tablet's dim light showing the way. Behind her, the Galaxian ambassador, who hours earlier had demanded her removal from first class, now followed her lead without question. "Your kind belongs in the back," he had told her. Now they all followed where she led. The emergency medical bay of Centauri Station hummed with activity as doctors of various species tended to the shuttle survivors. Maya sat on the edge of a treatment bed, wincing as a medical technician wrapped her injured leg. The pain medication was working, but she barely noticed it. Her mind was racing, connecting dots that others might miss. "You need rest, Dr. Johnson," the technician advised, securing the bandage. "Your leg will heal, but not if you keep putting weight on it." Maya nodded absently, her attention fixed on the emergency data flowing across her tablet screen. She had connected to the station's information network using her diplomatic credentials, reviewing the shuttle's final system logs. This wasn't an accident, she whispered to herself. The pattern was too specific. Emergency doors failing in sequence, oxygen systems shutting down in precisely timed intervals, the hull breach occurring exactly where the most important diplomats had been seated. Each failure had been triggered manually, masked to look like a cascade of technical malfunctions. Maya scrolled through crew logs, passenger manifests, and security footage from the hours before departure. Something caught her eye. A junior officer accessing the shuttle's maintenance systems just prior to launch. She zoomed in on his identification badge. Lieutenant Draz, security detail for Counselor Vreen. The name sent a chill through her. Counselor Vreen was the senior representative from the Proxima system and a vocal opponent of Earth's new equality legislation, the very proposal Maya was bringing to the Galactic Council. A shadow fell across her tablet. Maya looked up to see the Galaxian ambassador standing before her, his scales now a subdued green of recovery. "Dr. Johnson," he said, his voice lacking its earlier arrogance. "The medical staff informed me you refused transfer to a private recovery room." Maya nodded. "There's something more important than my comfort right now, Ambassador." His slitted eyes narrowed with curiosity. "You believe the shuttle failure was deliberate?" It wasn't a question. Maya studied his face for a moment before deciding to trust him with what she had found. "Look at this," she said, turning her tablet so he could see. The emergency systems were systematically disabled by someone with high-level access codes. Not random failures, targeted sabotage. The Galaxian leaned closer, his scales shifting to a deep blue of concentration. "This is Lieutenant Draz. He serves Counselor Vreen." "Exactly. And Counselor Vreen has been the most outspoken critic of Earth's Equal Species Recognition Act, the legislation I'm presenting tomorrow." The ambassador's scales flickered briefly with what Maya recognized as embarrassment. The legislation I was instructed to oppose at all costs. Uncomfortable silence stretched between them before the ambassador spoke again. There is something you should know, Dr. Johnson. Before the shuttle departed, I received a message instructing me to ensure you were removed from the diplomatic quarter. His scales shifted to a deep purple of shame. I was told it was a diplomatic necessity, a way to demonstrate Earth's junior status. Maya's eyes widened as understanding dawned. They needed me out of that section because they knew what was going to happen, the ambassador finished. You were not the target. You were being protected. Maya stood up despite her injured leg, adrenaline overriding the pain. Protected because someone wanted this to look like an accident targeting multiple species, not just humans. If I had died along with the others, suspicion might have fallen on human extremists. The ambassador nodded. A clever plan. By saving you, they implicated themselves. Maya quickly pulled up the passenger manifest again. Look at who was seated in the diplomatic quarter. Every representative planning to vote in favor of Earth's proposal. With them gone, the act would have failed, and tensions between humans and other species would increase. The Xalaxian added, his voice grim, creating the perfect environment for more restrictive policies. The doors to the medical bay slid open as security officers entered, led by the station commander. Their expressions were serious as they approached a Proximan diplomat being treated nearby. That's Counselor Vreen's chief of staff, the ambassador whispered. Maya watched as the officers surrounded the Proximan, who looked suddenly alarmed. When they led him away in restraints, Maya caught his gaze, a look of pure hatred directed at her. We need to present this evidence to the full council immediately, Maya said, gathering her tablet and standing carefully. The vote is tomorrow, and I suspect they'll try again. The Xalaxian ambassador straightened to his full height, his scales now shimmering with determination. No, Dr. Johnson, we need to present this evidence, together. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council sparkled with light reflecting off crystalline walls. Hundreds of representatives from across known space sat in rising tiers, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of interstellar diversity. At the center podium stood Maya Johnson, her formal Earth uniform crisp despite the events of the past day. Her injured leg was hidden beneath her long official robe, but the slight tremble in her stance betrayed her pain. Honored representatives, Maya began, her voice steady and clear. 26 hours ago, an attempt was made to silence the voices supporting Earth's Equal Species Recognition Act through violence and murder. The chamber filled with murmurs. Many had heard about the shuttle incident, but few knew the full truth. With permission from the council chair, I present evidence that the disaster was not an accident, but a deliberate act of sabotage. Maya gestured, and the chamber's display screens illuminated with data from her investigation. The gathered representatives gasped as security footage showed Lieutenant Draz accessing critical systems before departure. Additional screens displayed the systematic shutdown of safety protocols, timed precisely to cause maximum damage to the diplomatic quarter. The attack targeted those supporting Earth's proposal, Maya continued. Had it succeeded, not only would our legislation have failed, but relations between humans and other species would have deteriorated for generations. Maya paused, looking across the assembled delegates. In the front row, Counselor Vreen sat rigidly, his Proximan features locked in a carefully neutral expression. But something unexpected happened, Maya said, her voice growing stronger. The plot required removing me from the diplomatic quarter to avoid suspicion falling on anti-human elements. In doing so, they made their first mistake. She nodded toward the side entrance, where the Xalaxian ambassador waited. He moved forward to join her at the podium, his scales shimmering with ceremonial colors. Ambassador Zorax, and I have not always agreed, Maya said, acknowledging him with respect. In fact, just yesterday, he was instrumental in having me removed from my assigned seat in the diplomatic quarter.